Hey, Dan.
Hello.
All right. Hey, YouTubers. Welcome back. Today I am at my sister's backyard in her
And
garden. And
brother-in-law.
this is Dan, my brother-in-law. Dan, when did you start this garden?
So this garden, I've been in this house for 2 years. Last summer, I was working out of town, and this area was previously a dog run. And last summer, it spent the summer just under tarps to try to kill off any pathogen that might be left from the dogs, and then sprout and kill any weed seed or anything. So I had the opportunity to start weed suppression first, and then just in about January of this year, it's now June, I started this garden.
And what an amazing garden. There are so many greens. I've never seen so many greens in my entire life. I have some greens in my tiny garden, but this just amazes me. Can you go over some of the vegetables that you have in your garden, Dan?
Yeah, so this is my second garden. I had my first garden about 3 or 4 years ago in a rental house, and I had some leftover seed, and I tried, just like, oh, I'll see what still starts, and it turns out almost all of it was viable. So I have a multitude of different tomato varieties, and I wanted to start those early. Although I've pruned them very, very tightly. You can see that by the stakes that they're spaced very closely, so it's a lot of plants in a small area. And I've got it's like 5 or 6 varieties. And I'm a little behind on tying them up. You'll see when she gets that close. And then I grew over the winter peas and a lot more kale and bok choy. A lot of that I've taken out. Right now I've got some garlic. This is
Where's
garlic.
your garlic? That's garlic. Right
This is
there.
garlic. This is one head of garlic from the store. It's a little dry. I'm a little behind on watering, but this is one head that I split into cloves and stuck in the ground out of
Oh,
curiosity.
nice. Okay.
And I'll get about what was in the bag that came with that head.
And do you use your garlic greens?
We don't because because we just don't. Mainly, I'm trying to follow the advice of wait till they die and fall over and then harvest them.
And harvest the garlic.
And then this is shallots actually that she's looking at now. Most of which is from seed, and part of it is from sets. And the sets are these ones in the middle right here that are kind of more dense. The seed, some of it sprouted and thrived, and some of it didn't. It kind of went different ways. What else do you want to know about the garden?
And what are these over here?
This is carrots, except for a little bit of celery that I interplanted as a little experiment, and I wouldn't recommend doing that. There's no benefit. But this is one of the carrots. I started the carrots in
That's a purple
late March.
one. That's awesome.
Yeah, these are all purple. We've had a weird spring. We had a few hot weeks that were a little early, and then some cold weeks that were a little late. But this is probably the median carrot. I've had some that were bigger, like 3 or 4 inches longer and fatter, and some of them are still just like little baby carrots. And they're too dense. I didn't thin them, mainly because I'm lazy on thinning, but also because this is a kitchen garden, not a market garden, and so it's better for me if things don't all mature at the same time. I'm not very good at storing my vegetables yet, and so if they mature at separate intervals, that's better for me. I can always have something fresh. So most of what we eat out of this garden, we eat it within 1 to 2 days of harvest.
Oh, that's great. And also the carrot greens are edible, and you can cut them up and throw them in your salads or your smoothies and whatnot. And what are these over here?
Bolted lettuce.
Bolted lettuce.
We're having a little party today.
Yeah,
and
mine have all bolted too.
And I left it here so my garden looks fuller. So here are some that I trimmed really short a few weeks ago, and it actually is pretty good. The rest of this is really bitter. It's thriving. It's doing what it should. It's trying to form a little flower top, but it tastes horrible. But this actually tastes
really
good. I
bitter.
sampled some of this earlier. It's really good. So I had intended to just cut it all off and plant over it. But I may cut it short without cutting it off, and or at least some of it, and see if I can get more cuttings out of it, like I do my spring mix.
And these are broccoli, right?
Yeah, broccoli. So most of these broccoli started under lights in February or March, and the same thing. Like I plant them really dense. and it kind of here at least it sort of causes them to come mature at different rates, you know, and so, you know, like you can see this is a good example. Like I have this really big one right next to this little tiny one, you know, and you obviously you can see all the pest pressure that I've got. A lot of everything wants to eat the brassicas here, right? So I'll harvest these. When I harvest them, I just use a machete and I chop them off at the base and leave the roots intact, and then eat the whole floret, and then the whole flower, and then we wait for this guy to come mature on his own.
Right.
So
And
again, it
again,
would
the
not
greens
work.
are edible. You know, you can throw them in your stir fries and your smoothies as
Yeah,
well.
if I didn't have all these other greens to eat, I would. But there's so much, like I said, there's so much pest pressure, and I've got all these
Right,
holes in
right.
them. Like they're just not attractive,
Right,
so I
but
don't eat them.
there
But
are people who don't realize that they can eat the greens off of these.
it's just cabbage.
Beautiful.
This is
vegetables.
cabbage.
Right.
The leaf of the leaf of the broccoli is a cabbage. So just use it like you would cabbage.
All right. Well, your garden looks amazing, Dan. Great job, and thank you for our little tour.
You're welcome.